Good evening, golfers! Thank you for such an energetic welcome. Thank you again, Natalie and Amy, for this honor. This is almost a full circle moment for me. The first time, Gerry's Cafe was little more than a very important, very exciting vision. Luckily, there was enough support to get working on that vision. Those of us with intellectual disabilities were ready to help launch that vision. However, just like all of you, our world seemed to change overnight. COVID hit and things slowed way down. Even though the desire was there, the vision couldn't go forward because those of us that wanted to go to work so badly couldn't, because we were among those at high risk for severe illness. As our world opened, supply chain issues became the second barrier. Not a good time to build out a new business. I bet Natalie and Amy wish they had $1 for every time somebody asked them when Gerry's Cafe was going to open. During all that time, so many people continued to work hard on putting together plans, teams, and the resources needed to hit the ground running when it would be possible. Finally, the sun, the moon, the stars, and our world became aligned so the vision can just about be realized. The opening of Gerry's Cafe has become even more exciting and even more important, especially to those of us with exceptionalities. Some, if not most of you, may ask, why? Isn't this just a job? The answer is an emphatic no. Some of you have heard that the unemployment rate for adults with intellectual disabilities is at 80%. Let me give you just a peek into why this might be. First, right after a diagnosis, professionals tell our parents, and later us, all the things we wouldn't, couldn't, or shouldn't do. Sometimes even before we were born, and definitely before we tried. Think of how that would make you or your children feel. Soon, children like me are off to school. Well, after there were laws that said we were allowed to go. There, we met another set of professionals, many of whom told us what we could learn and where. Now, I have two older brothers, and no teacher ever decided they couldn't learn something before they walked into the classroom. Then at 18, some of us got to stay in high school for another 4 years, specifically to learn job skills. Generally, nobody asks adults with intellectual exceptionalities what type of job or what area they might like to work in. But they go to build their resume. Guess what? To my knowledge, few, if any of those businesses have ever hired one of the transition students who have just worked for free or well below minimum wage, doing something one of their paid employees generally doesn't want to do. Why would they? The next year, those same businesses get another set of adults to do the same thing at no cost to them. That's just one thing that makes transition training different than internships. You have no idea how many of us have been told we were unemployable or that nobody would want to see us doing a particular job that we were interested in. I am not sharing this with you to make you feel uncomfortable or sorry for us. Just the opposite. I am sharing this with you to highlight just how different and exciting Gerry's Cafe as a business has already been. Not only have they painstakingly created a vision, a mission, an environment that will welcome everybody, they seem to have revolutionized the hiring process. Let me give you an example. Just this last week, I had the good fortune to be able to interview for a job at Gerry's. I had been to job interviews before, and it took about as long as any typical job interview, but it was far from typical. When I left, my mom asked me how it went. With a big smile on my face, I said, "It went great." Why can't more job interviews be like that? You see, none of us had to sit down and talk to somebody. A typical task for those of us who process language differently. We didn't have to answer questions like, but you could be an animal. What would you be and why? Nope. We went to 4 different stations and learned one part of one job at Gerry's Cafe. There were picture cards to help us remember steps if we forgot. The interviewers had a chance to see our abilities and where we might need a little extra training. For those who are hired, training starts next week, and Gerry's Cafe will open shortly afterwards. This, however, is not the end of the vision. It is just the next step. Why? Because each one of those painstaking steps will require more time, and more resources. Our training will be paid, but without paying customers to offset those costs. The number of employees is, by necessity, so much more than typical. For archaic and not understandable reasons, the government has decided that those of us with intellectual disabilities should only be able to have $2,000 at any one time, ever. And if we make more than a certain amount every month, the governmental safety net that is there in case something happens to us or our parents goes away. This means that none of us can work full time. Yet Natalie and Amy have been adamant that each of us should be paid minimum wage, meaning Gerry's employment costs are an even bigger piece of the pie. Hopefully you understand a little better now that those of us with intellectual disabilities are not lazy. We are not incompetent, and we do not want to be a drain on our communities. We just want a chance. Those that have been involved with the building of the Gerry's Cafe mission believe in our abilities to their cores. Please continue to show your support for the dignity, the value, the community that will be Gerry's Cafe. When the time comes, please raise your paddles high and proudly. Together, we can make sure that Gerry's Cafe thrives and becomes an integral part of this community. Thank you so very much for your participation today, your time tonight, and your support of Gerry's Cafe. Come on out later this July and experience the joy. Woo!